Close your eyes and travel back to April 11th, 1970, Kennedy Space Center, Florida. A massive Saturn V rocket stands on the launch pad, pointing toward the sky. Inside the command module, 3 men prepare for humanity's third journey to the moon. This is not a story of success. This is a story of the greatest rescue mission in the history of space exploration. A story about 3 men, 200,000 miles from Earth, fighting for their lives in the cold vacuum of space. The crew. Commander James Lovell, 42 years old. This is his 4th spaceflight. A veteran. Calm, methodical, experienced. He's already orbited the moon on Apollo 8. Now he's finally going to walk on it. Jack Swigert, 38 years old. Command module pilot. This is his 1st spaceflight. He wasn't supposed to be on this mission. The original pilot, Ken Mattingly, was exposed to measles and removed from the crew just 3 days before launch. Swigert is the backup. He's nervous but ready. Fred Hayes, 36 years old. Lunar module pilot. Also his 1st spaceflight. He's been training for years, dreaming of walking on the moon. In a few days, he and Lovell will descend to the lunar surface while Swigert orbits above. That's the plan. Launch. 2:14 in the afternoon, April 11th, 1970. The countdown reaches 0. The engines ignite. 5 massive F1 engines, each producing over 1.5 million pounds of thrust, the most powerful machine ever built by human hands. The rocket rises, slowly at first, then faster, faster. Inside the command module, the 3 astronauts feel the tremendous acceleration pressing them into their seats. 3 Gs, 4, 5. 11 minutes later, they're in orbit. The engines shut down. Suddenly, weightlessness. After the crushing pressure, the sensation of floating feels almost magical. They orbit Earth once, checking all systems. Everything looks good. Mission Control in Houston gives the go-ahead. Translunar injection. The 3rd stage engine fires again. Apollo 13 accelerates to 25,000 miles per hour, fast enough to escape Earth's gravity, fast enough to reach the moon. They're on their way. The journey. The spacecraft consists of 2 parts, the command module, Odyssey, where they live during the flight, and the lunar module, Aquarius, attached to Odyssey's nose. Aquarius will carry Lovell and Hayes to the moon's surface. The first 2 days pass smoothly, routine, almost boring. They perform course corrections, broadcast television from space, eat, sleep, joke with Mission Control. On the 2nd day, they pass the point of equal gravity between Earth and Moon. Now the moon's gravity is pulling them faster than Earth's. They're falling toward the moon. Jim Lovell looks out the window at Earth, a beautiful blue and white sphere, getting smaller every hour. His wife Marilyn is down there. His children. Everything he knows. He's been in space before, but it never stops being humbling, never stops being beautiful. 55 hours, 54 minutes. April 13th, 9 o'clock in the evening, Houston time. The spacecraft is 200,000 miles from Earth, about 2/3 of the way to the moon. Jack Swigert is performing routine maintenance. Mission Control asks him to stir the oxygen tanks. Standard procedure. Keeps the oxygen from stratifying. He flips the switches, stirs tank 1, stirs tank 2. Suddenly, a loud bang. The entire spacecraft shudders. Warning lights flash, alarms sound. Swigert's heart races. What was that? He looks at Jim Lovell. Lovell looks back, eyes wide. Fred Hayes checks the instruments. We've got multiple caution and warnings here. Then Swigert speaks the words that will become famous, the words that will echo through history. Okay, Houston, we've had a problem here. At Mission Control, Flight Director Gene Kranz sits up straight. This is Houston. Say again, please. Jim Lovell's voice comes through, calm but urgent. Houston, we've had a problem. We've had a main B bus undervolt. Electrical power is dropping, but why? Lovell looks out the window. What he sees makes his blood run cold. Something is venting from the spacecraft, a cloud of gas, glittering in the sunlight, streaming into space. We are venting something out into space, he reports. At mission control, alarm bells are ringing in every controller's mind. Venting gas, loss of power. This is bad, very bad. The damage. Within minutes, they understand what happened. Oxygen tank 2 has exploded. The blast damaged oxygen tank 1. Both tanks are now leaking. Oxygen is everything. It's what they breathe. But it's also what powers the fuel cells that generate electricity. Without oxygen, no power. Without power, no life support, no communication, no navigation, nothing. The command module, Odyssey, is dying. At mission control, Gene Kranz stands at his console. Around him, controllers are trying to process what's happening. Some are panicking, suggesting abort procedures, talking about impossible scenarios. Kranz's voice cuts through the chaos. Okay, let's everybody keep cool. Let's solve the problem, people. Let's not make it any worse by guessing. He's a Korean War veteran, fighter pilot, crew cut, always wears a white vest his wife makes for him. He's famous for 2 things: never panicking and never losing a crew. He looks at the data streaming across the screens, looks at his team, makes a decision. "We're not going to the moon," he says quietly. Then louder. "Flight plan is as follows. We use Aquarius as a lifeboat, preserve Odyssey's battery power for re-entry, swing around the moon, and come home. Questions?" No questions. Then let's get to work. Lifeboat. The lunar module, Aquarius, was designed to keep 2 men alive for 2 days on the moon. Now it needs to keep 3 men alive for 4 days in space. Lovell and Hayes float through the tunnel connecting Odyssey to Aquarius. They power up the systems. Aquarius comes to life. Lights, displays, life support. This little spacecraft, designed for a completely different purpose, is now their only hope. Meanwhile, Swigert stays in Odyssey, shutting down systems to preserve battery power, turning off everything non-essential. The command module grows dark, cold, silent. It feels like shutting down a dying friend. Finally, Swigert floats through the tunnel to Aquarius. They seal the hatch behind him. Odyssey is now a dead, frozen shell. But they'll need it later, for re-entry. Aquarius can't survive re-entry. They'll need Odyssey's heat shield. For now, though, Aquarius is home. Crisis after crisis. At mission control, teams of engineers are working around the clock. The room that was designed for 8-hour shifts now runs 24 hours a day. Controllers sleep at their consoles, drink endless coffee, chain smoke cigarettes. They're solving problems faster than they've ever solved problems before. Problem 1. Trajectory. The explosion pushed them off course. They need to correct it. But fuel is limited. Every burn must be perfect. They calculate, recalculate, feed the numbers up to level. He fires the lunar module's engine, a short burn, 17 seconds. It puts them back on course. Problem 2. Power. Aquarius's batteries weren't designed for this. They're draining fast. Everything non-essential must be shut down. Heaters, most lights, the computer, except when absolutely needed. The temperature inside Aquarius begins to drop. 50 degrees Fahrenheit, 40, 38, just above freezing. The astronauts are wearing light flight suits, not designed for extreme cold. They huddle together, shivering, trying to stay warm. Fred Hayes develops a kidney infection from the cold and dehydration. They're rationing water, 6 ounces per person per day. Not enough. Hayes's fever climbs. He's in pain but says nothing, doesn't want to worry the others. Problem 3. Carbon dioxide. Every breath they exhale produces carbon dioxide. Too much CO2 and they'll suffocate. Aquarius has filters to remove CO2, but the filters are designed for 2 men for 2 days. Now it's supporting 3 men for 4 days. The CO2 levels are rising. The instruments show it climbing toward dangerous levels. Headaches, nausea, drowsiness, then unconsciousness, then death. At Mission Control, engineers stare at the problem. Odyssey has plenty of spare filters, but they're square. Aquarius's filter receptacles are round. One engineer holds up a square filter and a round receptacle. We've got to find a way to make this fit into the hole for this, using nothing but that. He points to a table covered with materials available on the spacecraft: plastic bags, cardboard, duct tape, hoses. They get to work. The MacGyver solution. 6 hours later, they have it. Step-by-step instructions, transmitted to the spacecraft. "Okay, Jim, we need you to build something." The astronauts float in the freezing cabin, listening to the instructions. It sounds crazy. Build an air purification system from a sock, duct tape, a plastic bag, and the cover of a flight manual. But they have no choice. For an hour, they work in the cold, their fingers numb, cutting, taping, fitting pieces together. It looks ridiculous, like something a child would make. They attach it to the system, turn it on. At first, nothing. Then, slowly, the CO2 readings begin to drop. 800 parts per million, 700, 600. It's working! In Mission Control, engineers erupt in quiet cheers. They just saved 3 lives with duct tape and a sock. Around the moon. 77 hours into the mission, they swing around the far side of the moon. Jim Lovell looks out the window. The moon's surface, gray and desolate, slides past below them. So close. He was supposed to walk there, supposed to be the 5th human to stand on another world. Instead, he's flying by, just another tourist. But he's alive, and right now, that's enough. The moon's gravity slings them around, back toward Earth. They're coming home. But they have a problem. They're moving too slowly. At their current speed, the journey back will take 6 days. They don't have 6 days of power, 6 days of oxygen, 6 days of water. They need to speed up. Another burn, this one longer, 4 minutes. They fire Aquarius's descent engine, the engine designed to land on the moon. Now it's pushing them home. It works. Journey time drops to 4 days. Still tight, but possible. The long wait. The hours crawl by. The astronauts are exhausted, cold, dehydrated. Hayes's fever is worse. Lovell has lost 14 pounds. They haven't slept properly in days. But they're alive, getting closer to Earth every second. At Mission Control, the tension is unbearable. Gene Kranz paces, smokes, drinks coffee, runs calculations over and over. One final problem remains, the biggest one: re-entry. They need to power up Odyssey, use its heat shield to survive the plunge through Earth's atmosphere. But Odyssey has been shut down for 4 days, cold-soaked, systems frozen, batteries nearly drained. Has the cold damaged anything? Will it restart? Nobody knows. They've never tried to restart a spacecraft that's been shut down this long. And there's another issue. When they separated the service module, the one that exploded, what if debris damaged Odyssey's heat shield? What if there's a crack, a hole? If the heat shield fails during re-entry, they'll burn up. 3 shooting stars falling into the Pacific. Nothing they can do about it now. They have to try. Re-entry. 2 hours before re-entry, the astronauts separate Aquarius from Odyssey, their lifeboat, the scrappy little spacecraft that saved their lives. They watch it drift away. Lovell feels an unexpected sadness. Aquarius gave them everything, kept them alive when nothing else could. Now they're leaving it behind. It will burn up in the atmosphere. "Farewell, Aquarius," Lovell says quietly, "and we thank you." They seal themselves in Odyssey. Swigert begins the power-up sequence. Systems activate one by one. Navigation, communication, life support. Everything works. Against all odds, everything works. At Mission Control, controllers are on their feet. This is it, the moment they've been working toward for 4 days. If the heat shield is intact, the astronauts will survive. If not, they don't think about that. 4 minutes of silence. The spacecraft hits the atmosphere, traveling at 25,000 miles per hour. The heat shield glows red, then white. Temperature outside reaches 5,000 degrees Fahrenheit. Inside, the astronauts feel the deceleration, 4 Gs, crushing weight after 4 days of weightlessness. Lovell grips his armrests. This is it. If the heat shield fails, they'll know in seconds. But it holds. The heat shield, battered and cold-soaked, does its job. During re-entry, the heat creates a plasma shield around the spacecraft. Radio waves can't penetrate it. For 4 minutes, they're in radio blackout. 4 minutes when Mission Control can't hear them, can't help them, can only wait. In Houston, the room is silent. Hundreds of people holding their breath. 4 minutes, the longest 4 minutes of their lives. Gene Kranz stares at the clock. 3 minutes. 2. 1. 4 minutes pass. Still nothing. 5 minutes. 6. Controllers look at each other. Something's wrong. The blackout should have ended by now. 7 minutes. Then a voice crackles through the speakers. "Okay, Joe." It's Jack Swigert, calm, alive, talking to Joe Kerwin, the capsule communicator. Mission Control erupts, cheering, crying, hugging. Men who haven't shown emotion in 4 days suddenly can't hold it back. Gene Kranz stands at his console, tears streaming down his face. They did it. They brought them home. Splashdown. The main parachutes deploy. 3 massive canopies, red and white, blossoming against the blue Pacific sky. The command module hits the water. Not gracefully, it slams down, flips over, rights itself. Inside, the 3 astronauts look at each other, wet, cold, exhausted, but alive. Navy helicopters are already overhead. Divers jump into the water. Within minutes, the hatch opens. Fresh air rushes in, warm Pacific breeze. Jim Lovell, Jack Swigert, Fred Hayes climb out onto the recovery raft. The sun is shining, the ocean is calm. Earth has never looked so beautiful. On the aircraft carrier Iwo Jima, sailors line the deck, cheering, flags wave, the band plays. The astronauts step onto the deck. They can barely walk after 4 days of weightlessness, but they walk. Jim Lovell salutes the captain. They're home. The aftermath. The world celebrates, not because they went to the moon, but because they survived. President Nixon awards them the Presidential Medal of Freedom. They turned a potential tragedy into one of the most dramatic rescues in history. Gene Kranz tells his team, "Failure is not an option." That phrase becomes NASA's unofficial motto. An investigation reveals what caused the explosion: a damaged wire in oxygen tank 2, a minor defect overlooked during testing. In space, minor defects kill. NASA redesigns the oxygen tanks, adds safety features, makes sure it never happens again. Jim Lovell never flies in space again. Apollo 13 is his last mission. He retires from NASA, writes books, gives speeches, lives to see men return to the moon decades later. Jack Swigert becomes a congressman, elected to the House of Representatives. Dies of cancer in 1982, just before taking office. He was 51. Fred Hayes flies the Space Shuttle test program, never gets another chance to walk on the moon, but he trains the next generation of astronauts. The lesson. Apollo 13 didn't land on the moon. By NASA's original standards, it was a failure. But in another way, it was NASA's finest hour, because it proved something more important than reaching the moon. It proved that human beings working together can solve almost any problem, that intelligence, courage, and determination can overcome impossible odds. 3 men, 200,000 miles from Earth in a crippled spacecraft, and hundreds of people on the ground working without sleep, without breaks, refusing to give up. They brought them home. Not because they had better technology than the Soviets, not because they had unlimited resources, but because they had something else. They had people who refused to accept failure, who looked at an impossible problem and said, "We'll find a way." Gene Kranz said it best. "When bad things happened, we just calmly laid out all the options, and failure was not one of them. We never panicked, we never gave up on finding a solution." Sleep peacefully. Close your eyes. Imagine not the cold of space, but the warmth of your bed. Imagine not danger, but safety. Imagine not the vast emptiness of space, but the comfort of home. The story of Apollo 13 is a story about the edge of disaster. 3 men who came within minutes of dying in space. But it's also a story about human capability, about what we can achieve when we work together, when we refuse to quit. Jim Lovell, looking out at Earth from a dying spacecraft, had every reason to despair, but he didn't. He trusted his crew, trusted the people on the ground, trusted that together they would find a way. And they did. Breathe slowly, deeply, calmly. You are safe. You are home. The world continues turning beneath you. And tomorrow, when you wake, remember this. Every problem has a solution. Every challenge can be overcome. Sometimes it takes duct tape and creativity. Sometimes it takes courage and persistence. But there's always a way. Because that's what we do. We solve problems. We help each other. We bring each other home. Good night.